Well, hello, Jen.
Hey.
How are you?
I am great. How are you?
I'm well. I'm Marie.
I'm Jen.
And this is the Be Free podcast. This is our first episode, and we are glad you are joining us. We are going to be talking about being free. And our first topic of the whole season is one of our favorites, Maya Angelou, and one of her best well-known poems is The Caged Bird. And we felt that it would be perfect to kind of sit and talk about that because that just opens everything up and what we've been dealing with, and we wanted to share with you guys.
Yes.
But to start it off, the drinks. Yes.
The wine. The wine.
We start off every episode with some wine. Healthy as we can get it.
Yes.
This one I picked.
Okay.
Okay. This is called the Wonderful Wine. Now they have a few everywhere.
The bottle is so
It's
pretty.
so pretty.
Oh my gosh.
It's great. So it's vegan friendly, low sugar, low carbs. I just think that anything vegan friendly and organic grapes is going to have a good bold flavor.
Yes.
So let's go for it.
All right. So let's do it. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Yes. And cheers.
Cheers.
Okay.
Let's try it. Yeah,
That is wonderful.
that'll work.
The wonderful wine.
The wonderful wine. So good.
So okay.
Okay, so regarding the caged bird, one of our favorites.
Yes.
There's a line that sticks out that I love. It
Okay.
says, the caged bird sits on a grave. Wait, oh gosh, how does it go again? The caged bird sits on a grave of dreams.
Oh yeah, broken dreams, right?
It's dreams. It's just
Okay,
dreams.
just
Yeah,
dreams, okay.
that's how I was going to get confused by saying broken dreams because that's the first thing that comes to my mind. But it resonates so well because there's so many things in both of our lives that we felt caged, whether it be career, family, relationships, self-worth,
Yeah.
that we've been talking about lately. And I just thought that would be perfect to kind of dive into.
I think so too. I completely resonate with this poem on so many levels, but specifically just with my identity. I feel like for so long I felt like I was in a prison or I was caged, right? And I was looking at everyone else, just in life and having fun, being free, really experiencing joy.
Yeah.
And I was kind of in this cage but no one knew that I was in the cage, but me. And I don't think I really knew at first that I was in a cage myself. So, it wasn't until I really went on a self discovery, like a journey of trying to figure out and understand why I was depressed and why I was sad and why I didn't love myself really.
Everyone would have thought that you loved yourself, girl.
Thank you. I mean,
Let's be honest.
but you can't really tell what someone is going through. Looking, just looking at someone from the outside, you can put a smile on, you can put makeup on, you can smile, you can show up every day, and you can even just, you can show up for other people in ways and no one know that you're struggling yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So, and sometimes, to be fair, you don't even know, you're unaware, something's wrong, but you're not fully aware of what is actually going on.
Yeah.
So I think for a long time, until I actually decided to do that work and go back and figure out and try to pinpoint what is it, what happened to me that I feel this way. I didn't know. When I was 18, I started feeling like that and becoming more aware of it. And then I actually had a memory that I was sexually abused when I was 3 or 4. And I had never even thought about that. I didn't even know, I didn't even remember it. I wasn't aware of it until.
I'm just saying maybe your mind just closed that off.
It did.
Yeah.
In order to survive. But it's still there.
Yeah.
Those wounds.
What would have brought that up? What?
Because I knew something was something was wrong, right? But I was.
What age was this?
This was 18.
Okay, this was 18.
This was 18 when I started to figure this out, and then I started going to therapy.
Okay.
so I was really trying to figure out,
Yeah.
like, understand myself, you know? And then that's, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's really interesting how we can go into a survival, you know, mechanism, how our body just, you know, goes into, you know, not having to remember those things so that we can keep going on, right? Because I was so young and I didn't tell anyone. I didn't know what to do about it. So then, you know, life kept going on, but it always shows up. It always peeks its head. It always shows up later on in life.
I'm here.
Yeah, here. So in my case, it was showing up as you know, just impacting the way I experience life. You know, feeling shame and guilt and like this deep sense of unworthiness. So
did it take you time to unlock that cage?
Yeah, because I had to actually acknowledge that this happened. And then other things had happened. Yeah. And then like identify, well, what was it that I believed from that?
Got it.
And so it was really the unworthiness that I felt, the shame and the guilt, the condemnation. You know, as a little kid, that happening, you think you did something wrong. So I think this became just the lies that I believed for so long, and it was so deep rooted inside me.
Did you take that into other relationships?
And it impacted everything. So that's where I felt caged, right? Because it was literally impacting the way I experienced life. Yeah. And so I didn't feel a lot of times worthy of friendships or, you know, success or the dreams or just anything good happening to me. Yeah. So I, you know, that in that poem, it's like the caged bird is like, you know, the wings are clipped and the feet are tied. That's one of, and that's kind of how I felt for so long.
Wow. For me, it was not, I mean, not as tragic and, you know, it was more, I came from an abusive family, but I was never sexually abused. However, the physical or emotional abuse was there. And I was always, I was quiet, very pleasing to people, and thought that this was going to be my life, like forever. Like I really thought this cage that's just what I was born into. This is where I'm staying, right? And I was 18. Right before I turned 18, I had a dream that everything was going to be okay.
Wow.
Yeah, it was right before I turned 18 that everything was going to be okay. Like what I thought my life was going to be, it wasn't. So I was like, that happened, and I was like, okay, I can do this. Like I've never had that dream before, and I just really remember it very vividly. And I think it was just a couple weeks later, I had turned 18. My mom was at the grocery store. I called my boyfriend. And I said, my mom's at the grocery store. We have 45 minutes to move me out.
Wow.
And he came, he packed me up. We were gone. My mom rolls in the driveway. And I was like, I'm sorry, I gotta go. Gotta leave. I gotta get out of here. And ever since then, once I got out of that cage, my life, thank God, has been exactly what was in that dream. Wow. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Everything that happened in that dream is where my life is.
That's so amazing because, you know, it's really hard sometimes when you're being mistreated by people you love
and trust.
And you trust, you know, specifically your parents and so it's not a, you know, we're not supposed to dishonor our parents, right? Or in any way, but it's like also, you know, we have to like put up boundaries, right? And our worth and our value is important. So it's like, you know, not staying in situations, you know, that are being, you know, you're being mistreated. And so you, by leaving, you had to leave and you had to go. But a lot of people would have, by loyalty, well, this is my mom, this is my life, this is what it is, and just would have stayed. But it's like you had the courage and the boldness to get up and leave. And make that decision. And then it's like God was like, okay.
I really, that goes into, you and I are such faithful people. We, you know, we go to church, you know, we're rooted in our faith. And that really means something of like really, like listening to those signs.
Yeah.
And that's not just a coincidence that those things happen. You know, like you said, like you were, for some reason, you just knew like there was something, and then that therapy opened it up for you. Like there's a reason why you were led to go to therapy.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Because I think if I hadn't had pinpointed that root of what it was, because you think, oh, I'm happy, right? And then you kind of like, you can go through life in avoidance, you know, because
shovel it under the rug.
Because you're like, but I have all these things. I've done all these things. I have a great family. I have great friends. I'm not sad. Yeah. You can kind of be like, you know, and then you can become busy and become, you know, avoidance can look like I want to be more successful and I want to work more and I'll have more kids, or I'll do this or I'll do that, so that you can avoid actually sitting with yourself and feeling those emotions, which is really, really hard.
That's hard.
You know, and being still and quiet. And so I think...
Well, that'll catch up to you too.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
The avoidance.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Because at some point...
You're sitting,
it's still going to be there.
Yeah, and at some point you're in COVID and you're sitting alone in your thoughts.
Right.
You're like, here by myself, nowhere to go, no one to talk to. Hello, me.
Exactly. So it's like, I've learned from that experience of learning how to, when things come up for me, or even things happen to me now, I deal with it. Whether it hurts, whether it's uncomfortable, whether it's convenient, I really try to not, you know, push it away or deal with it later. You know, I really try to work through those things because, you know, it's going to show up later on in life at some point. Yeah. And so I think that is about living a free life, right? And not trying to avoid. And
I agree. Just don't try to avoid. Unlock that cage, girl. Right? It goes into careers too, right?
It does. I also think, like, I just wanted to say about that, you know, abused people either abuse people or they, you know, find themselves in relationships that they're being mistreated. Right. Or, you know, so it's like, it's either one or the other.
Almost familiar.
And so it's, you know, I think for me, that's kind of what happened. I kind of kept finding myself in relationships, whether it was with friends or romantic, whatever, relationships that were mistreating me, you know? And I'm like,
So wait, did you ever like get out of, let's say, one cage and then find yourself in another one? Or like, do you just were sitting in multiple ones? Like,
I felt like
multiple cages, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I felt like that cage was the root cage, like the one cage, and then that was like, then there was like insecurity.
Yep, you took that one, locked it up.
You know, like it was like
another lock.
Yeah, and then it was the guilt, the shame, can't tell anyone, you're unworthy, you're no one's gonna want you, you're too damaged, you know, so it was like, wow, it was multiple things that I had to like really work through. So yeah,
that's tough. That's a long journey out of those cages, girl. It's a lot of work. And therapy and money.
It is.
And God talking, you know, and being into tuned with yourself and your, you know, just those thoughts aren't just your thoughts. Those are someone's talking to you, you know?
Right.
It takes a lot.
But I also think that's why we're doing this podcast, because I feel like I learned so much from other women. Like I didn't feel like I could open up and share my story for so long because, or the things that happened to me, because people made me feel like I couldn't. Like, you shouldn't feel like that, you know?
I know.
You have everything, like, you're, like, ungrateful or whatever the case may be. Yeah. So, I didn't, you know, for a long time. But then when I started listening to other women be so vulnerable about their stories and about, like, how they're still working through it, and I viewed them like, wow, like, you're so strong, and I admired them so much. And so it was just really... it was really powerful to hear their stories, and I think that really helped me. So I think that's, you know, that's what all of this is about. You know, being able to share.
Share. That's the most important thing. If you can share, you will realize how many people are going through the same thing.
Right?
And probably
you think
worse.
You're alone.
Right.
And I think that feeling like you're alone is it's really dangerous. It's a really dangerous place to be. You know, we're really safe and we're really meant to be in community.
Yeah.
You know, so
We have to be.
Yeah. Yes.
Girl. But this whole cage thing I was saying before, it goes back into career too.
In what way?
You know what? I think, well, for me, thinking my career started as a child actor. I was really small. I was like 7 years old. Little thing. And I always thought, you know,
Little baby.
And I did like the comedy stuff, still do. But as I got older, I was kind of, you know, typecast in the, you know, I was thinking, this is the best I can do. This is where I belong. You know, until one of my agents who became a good friend was like, girl, no, get out there. They don't know what they want.
Right.
Show them what they want. And then let's go from there.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? You're so right.
Right.
You know, that's how I feel, you know. I think that there is, that's how that caged kind of theory has led into my workspace. But I've gotten through it.
Yeah, I definitely get what you're saying. I feel like for me, it's not having limitations. I think we're in such a different time in this industry. You know, like I think, you know, when we were younger, I started acting when I was 9 as well. So we were definitely little kids, little babies, little Jen and Marie. So it was completely different then, and now it's like there's no limitations, right? There's nothing like before was like Angelina Jolie and like Brad Pitt and like all like these movie stars, and that was like, you know, what it was. But now there's not just going to the movies.
No, there's platforms
and not just
everywhere.
Primetime TV.
Yeah.
There's so many streaming platforms that it's like everything is like oversaturated, and there's no right way to do anything.
Just do it.
Just literally
just do it.
You know, so I think as far as being a creative, you can really, it is actually a very good thing where the industry has gone. But
it's no longer caged.
It's no longer caged is what I'm trying to say. You know,
you
really can just feel free to be creative and everything. Where before they would be like, don't do reality TV because you're an actor.
Yeah.
Now it's like.
Now reality people are becoming actors. You're like, wait, what?
Yeah, so there's like no limitations anymore.
That goes into like gender too, or not. I mean, like females, I should say. Females in general. If we're talking about cages, because generations back, they were to do one thing, or you know, like the stay-at-home mom, you know, cooking dinner every night, having their steak ready for their husband when they got home. You know what I mean?
Gosh.
And then it was like, oh, you can work an office job, but that's all you can do. You can be a secretary. Now we have boss ladies.
Like my favorite show that's not on anymore was Scandal. So with, you know, Kerry Washington. So she was boss lady. Yeah, it's so different now.
It's so different now.
Yeah.
So you see corporations and they have women and you're like, yes.
So it's all about empowering women.
It is.
Yeah.
See, I love that. It just resonates with every part of life, I think.
Yeah.
What about parenting for you?
I think parenting for me with this poem is like I've been very intentional about breaking free from all the cages so that I didn't pass that down to my daughter.
Yeah. So she wasn't born with a cage.
So she wasn't born with the cage.
Yeah.
And even just with parenting, you know, there's certain things that, you know, we all, parents, like every generation.
We don't know what we're doing. We're just doing it.
We're doing it. But we try to do better than, you know, the previous generation. You know, you try to learn and you try to always give your children better. So I think in that, I really try to, you know, break all those, be more intentional and more aggressive about, you know, being free.
Yeah.
So that I can, you know, like help my daughter to not have the same issues. You know?
But they can't be too free.
And not too free. Not too free. But it's but it's also about, you know, letting them have the freedom and and doing life, you know, with them. And like, and you know, I think it's a fine balance.
It is a fine balance,
Right.
especially raising our daughters. Like, gosh, they're going to be teenagers. That's tough.
It is tough.
You know?
Yeah.
So you have to, like, you know, let them out a little bit. Like, you know, give them a little bit of freedom, but you're like, oh, my baby. But then you're like, no, they're, you know, and because that part of that sticks with them. Like, my mom was like this and I was never allowed to do this. Not like the normal, like I couldn't go out with my friends, but, you know, just certain things. Like, my mom would never have let me. And I remember things that my mom did in the past, and it still sticks with me just a little bit.
Right.
Just, you know, I'm out of that cage, but I'm just a little bit. So yeah, I agree. It's just being free, and then just teaching our children now, you know, just making sure that they have a little bit more freedom than we did.
Yeah. And then also
on certain things.
For like me, like being sexually abused as a child, I think it was really important that I recognized like how important it is to guard your kids. Yeah. You know, and because, you know, these, as much as you can, not with being paranoid or over sheltering,
I get it, girl.
but to be mindful of checking in and making sure I talk to her about her body from a baby, you know, because no one did that with me. And then I didn't know what was right or what was wrong. Yeah. So I think like I learned, you know, from my experience, you know, and I took that so that she wouldn't, you know, have to go through the same things. Yeah. And I also think parenting is so different now because the world is, I mean, you can't shelter them, right? Because they're exposed to so much with social media and all that. So, yeah, you don't want to put them in a cage, too, by saying you can't do that, you can't do this, and you can't do that. And then they get out there in the world, and then they want to do everything, and then they find themselves in a cage because of what you didn't allow them to kind of make mistakes and with under your supervision, right?
Well, see, that I gotta admit, I do have one thing I'm not too free on with my children. I that I kept from my mother. I don't let my kids spend the night anywhere.
Yes, you are a stickler. Like you are very.
I don't, and my mom had the same rule with me. Yeah, I had one friend that I could spend the night, and that was it. And I get it now. Like that stuff I get. Yep. And then, you know, learning your situation, and it's just, you get it. You know, I don't know them, and I don't know an uncle or a neighbor, you know? Yeah. So that's one thing I have to admit I do. Yes. I got that kid tight on that. You ain't going anywhere. Your friend wants to come over here. Not going anywhere else. Sorry. It's my cage. I had to admit it. We're being free and honest here.
No, it is really good. I mean, it's very wise, you know, so.
I'm not going to do that. Yeah.
No. Yeah. No,
but I'm glad that you opened up about that, about, you know, sexual abuse as a child and getting out of that and using that as where to move forward with raising your own daughter. That's huge.
Thank you.
It's very opening, and especially for our first day.
I mean, you know.
You have opened the floodgates. How am I going to top that? I don't know.
But
stay tuned.
Okay. But I know we're laughing, but sexual abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, it's all abuse. It's all abuse. Wrong, and it affects you.
Let me tell you.
It all impacts you
differently.
But
let me give you an example.
It's all wrong.
When I graduated college, I think I've told you this before. My mother walked out before my name was called.
Why?
Of my college graduation.
Why would she do that?
Listen, I don't know, but that sticks with me today. That is a form of, you know, abuse in my eyes because I was physically, emotionally abused at home, and that was just like, that was it, you know, and that was. I mean, it wasn't the last time I talked to her, but that was it for me. That was like, I can't. I'll forgive you, but I will never forget it, you know. Anymore. But like you said, there's so many different forms.
It is.
You know.
Yeah.
And you were the same way. Like, you didn't show anyone you went through any of this. Nobody, right? I mean, you worked throughout your adolescence. I stopped and went to regular school, but anyone at school would have never known. The only person that ever knew what I was going through was my high school counselor and a teacher at my junior high. They were the only ones that ever knew. None of my friends knew what was going on. Oh, one good friend, actually my neighbor. No one ever knew because we put on this mask. Everyone thinks we have it together. We go to school happy. They're like, oh, you're dating the basketball player, you're prom queen. They have no idea what I'm going home to. They have no idea that I was picked up in a cop car at 2 a.m. because someone called and said I had ran away when in fact I was kicked out of my home.
Wow.
And told to get the hell out of, the state, whatever. So I called bluff and I was like, peace out, I'm out. And then I was called as a runaway. Like, so, it really takes strong people like us to bounce back and get out of that cage scar-free. Like, I would consider myself scar-free from getting, like, I struggled to get out of that cage.
Right.
And
how that's what we have so much in common when it comes to that, because I think we're both very positive people. And I think our mindset is that, we forgive, we let it go. And that has everything to do with them and has nothing to do with us. And, we're going to move forward. We're going to enjoy, every second of our lives and all of the good things in our life, But how, what would you say is the most important thing, for anyone listening, in that kind of situation, as far as healing?
It gets better.
Yeah.
It gets better. That's what I would tell people. It really does get better.
Yeah.
Even you think it's the deepest cage, the darkest of valleys, it always gets better. No matter how low you can get, you can only go higher. I don't know how to explain it, but I also have a huge faith in God.
Right.
And I always have. I was born in the church. I was raised in the church. I host Bible study. I have that faith, and I've always had it. And not that just led me to believe. I just really think you just have to know that it gets better, whether you have that faith or not in God. I'm just saying, it gets better.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look around too, when you're at your lowest or you're in a cage that you just think you can't get out of, and you see those cages around you, someone's cage can be a lot worse.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah. The quote that comes to me is this too shall pass.
This too shall pass.
And, I think you can think you're at the lowest point. Oh, this is so bad. This is horrible. This is never going to get better.
And listen, I've been there, even though I know.
We all been there in different levels of our life, but it always does pass, and it always does get better if you keep moving forward. And I think that's the important part, is sharing your story. Right? Talk about what you're going through. You're not a burden.
Nope.
People want to help you,
and
more
if
than
friends
you
think that you're a burden, you need to find new friends.
Well then there you go. Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Find new friends. Find a church group. Find someone. Find a counseling group. They're not your real friends if they're like, you're just too heavy right now. Then no.
Right. And I think it's important to make those decisions for yourself. You decided to walk away from something that wasn't honoring yourself.
No.
It wasn't a good situation. But you didn't have the next steps. You didn't exactly know how it was going to work out. You knew you wanted better for yourself. And I have walked away from situations in my own life where I literally didn't know how I was going to make it. Past that, but I knew I can't stay in this situation anymore because it's unhealthy for me, and I have to leave, or I'm gonna die here. It, spiritually, emotionally, I can't stay here. So I think that it's really important that we honor that. We have to honor that. We have to honor that, and then on the other side of that, I think God always meets you. Always. And that you're never too far away from being healed.
Nope. We all have cages.
We all have cages.
And we can all get out of them.
Yes.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I love that conversation.
Yes.